For me, it's looking at the Bitcoin chart and basically saying to myself, all right, well, right now we had the FTX fiasco. The issue here is that since that's occurred, we haven't snapped back. We've been kind of staying in the lower ranges. On a technical basis, that's short-term negative, right? And again, it's called what's called a bear flag, or in spirit of bear flag. So at least in the near term, going into January, I do think there's a little bit more downside, but there are some.
In this video, Gareth Soloway, a master trader and technical analyst, on his recent interview with Scott Melker, gives his thoughts about where markets are at. Soloway discusses that markets are a Bitcoin chart. He believes that Bitcoin will survive and thrive, but it's likely to correct further. There is still much irrational exuberance in the crypto space. He argues that the current pattern is more likely to break down. Soloway stated that the correction remains a possibility because Bitcoin has never experienced the current environment characterized by quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve. Interestingly, Soloway stated that Bitcoin being a hedge against inflation was a myth. He stressed that Bitcoin should retest either of the two levels based on historical price movement. Commenting on the Terra coin's collapse, Soloway opined that the incident might have a long-term positive impact on the crypto sector from a regulatory front. He acknowledged that for the sector to grow, there is a need for regulation, and Luna's collapse might set the ball rolling to protect investors. Furthermore, Soloway opined that Luna's collapse is helping Bitcoin and Ether stand out as the only reliable cryptocurrencies. He is now hopeful for 2023 with his Bitcoin analysis, and it's because he views regulation as a good thing. Bitcoin is going to start to bottom out and actually start to turn up in 2023. That means it has to decouple from risk assets, and the key to this is going to be regulation. He also added that it could drop to $9,000 in 2023. Soloway, who observed the performance of the S&P 500 after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and noted that the stock market fell by about 40 to 45% in the following 5 or 6 months, calculated using the same formula that Bitcoin could drop to $9,000 in the months following FTX. In addition to this, he discusses the major positives for Bitcoin, but before we get right into that, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
One of the positives for Bitcoin, and why I think, yes, there's downside, but I actually think we're going to make a low in 2023, is that we saw the Terra Luna collapse here and price dropped on Bitcoin 45%. Then you had the FTX collapse and price dropped 23 or 25%. And so you could arguably make the case that FTX was a bigger deal for crypto than the Terra Luna collapse, but price lost a smaller percentage. And so I think for me, that's saying to me, okay, we're getting closer to that bottom, even if we're not there. But one of the things that I've been playing around with is comparing the FTX collapse and its impact on the industry to the Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008. And I think that's really interesting in terms of the fear. And remember, when you're trading charts, you're trading human emotion, right? When someone buys, they're greedy, they think it's going up. When someone sells, they're fearful, they think the price is going to go down. So really, you can compare different charts, different time periods, historical charts, to what's going on, because it tends to repeat over and over again. So if you look at that, Bitcoin, or at least the S&P 500 after Lehman Brothers, dropped another 45%, and it took about 6 months. So for me, in terms of where Bitcoin could bottom in 2023, I'm looking at 6 months out from the FTX drop, which is right around May to June. And then also we're looking at, right around that 10,000-ish area, potentially, maybe a little bit below in terms of Bitcoin. I also think that with Bitcoin, the 10,000 will be a max pain. And Scott, I know you know about this stuff in terms of, where do you force the most fear out of people? And it probably would be around that 10,000 break.
Regarding the price of other crypto, the price of Ether typically follows Bitcoin, and that has generally been the case so far. As bad as it's been for Bitcoin and Ether in 2022, the situation has been significantly worse for other speculative altcoins. While the bear market is raging, altcoins are not where investors probably want to be, and that is unlikely to change soon. Altcoins which couldn't establish legitimacy or any use case in the bull market are going to find it much harder to remain relevant in such a situation. Despite all of the market turbulence, investors should take comfort in the fact that Bitcoin's deflationary nature results in price appreciation for long-term investors, and they should continue to invest into Bitcoin in 2023. In this regard, Gareth Soloway was asked about the specific alts which he is watching right now, and in addition to this market's going to bottom in 2023, as it is a generational opportunity long-term to make some money.
And again, for me, it's and just to be clear, and I'm big on transparency. What I've been doing in terms of my personal investments is I basically decided that when we were in that 17-ish thousand range, that I would start accumulating a little bit of a longer term hodl position in Bitcoin. But what I did before I started to do that, I took a certain amount of money. I said, this is what I feel comfortable based on my net worth, et cetera, for putting in Bitcoin. And I divided it into 6 portions, equal portions. And I took that first 1/6, then I put it in around 17 and change. And then the idea is every 3,000 down, I'll just add another 1/6 until I accumulate. This way, I'm not trying to be a fancy trader here and pick the exact bottom, because honestly, I'd probably miss it. But at least I have exposure on the way down if it does start to rip higher. Now, looking at Ethereum, for instance, one of the things you were talking about is, what is the max pain? Could it be to the upside? And the one thing I'm watching here, right, is this trend line right here, this downsloping one. I saw you had it on Bitcoin. It's basically the same sort of thing. And notice how you have this little mini bull flag right here. All right, now we are backing off. Stock market is down today again. But if we could break this level, I would say around 1,235, 1,240, you actually have the potential to retest this high and maybe even get to a longer term trend line. Let me erase this one. This would be a longer term up move.
17-ish or something.
Yeah, back to about 1450 to 1,500.
Okay,
so I think that's kind of interesting there in terms of maybe we get a short term move up before that next flush to the downside.
On Ether, Soloway is bearish. I think the key here is to just understand what type of market we're in. When you're in a bear market, it takes a lot to get prices to go up because people are scared. So if you're in a bull market, you could have the tiniest bit of news and the price will rip up. It could even be news that's not relevant. But the problem is we're in a bear market, and in a bear market, people really need value. Soloway says that investors need to know that something is immediately changing to get confidence back. The merge didn't meet that hope. It's probably fantastic for Ether, but in the near term, what everyone is focusing on is the Federal Reserve interest rates, the US dollar, and the economy. All of those things are just crushing risk assets right now. Soloway further discusses that during the FTX collapse, Ether's still sitting in the mid-12s, 50% higher than June low, which was 8, but obviously it went up to 2,000 from 800 Bitcoin and never showed a move proportional to.
What I would kind of be looking for is, while Bitcoin makes new lows, let's say 10 or 9,000, you probably see Ethereum come down to the double bottom here. And that would be my big buy level, right? In a poetic sense, it's almost like, okay, that's a technical support. It kind of retests this double bottom, but doesn't really break it, while Bitcoin does in the next few months.
Well, after listening to the Soloway, what are your thoughts about the markets in 2023? Do tell us in the comment section below, and hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting information. Thanks for watching.